Okay, well, hello everyone. My name is Chela Sea, and I'm a study abroad advisor at UW-Stout's Office of International Education. And I am very happy to be hosting Lauren Hall here from Otago University in New Zealand, definitely a place on my personal bucket list. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. We are recording this session, and if you are not comfortable with that, you can access the recording via our Canvas homepage for this Study Abroad Fair. It should be uploaded later this week. Please feel free to type in questions that you might have into the chat. You can also raise your hand, or I'm sure later on in the session we'll have time for you to turn on your microphone or your camera and ask questions as well. So with that, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm sorry that I'm not able to be there in person, but it is a great opportunity to be able to chat with you and provide a bit of information about the University of Otago. So first up, I thought I would just give a bit of a state of play with regards to COVID-19. New Zealand, you may have seen in the news, has been incredibly fortunate with regards to the response and the situation we're currently in. One of the things, however, that it does mean is our borders are currently closed. And so essentially that means study abroad for semester one, which is spring in the US, is highly unlikely. Purely because students are just not going to be able to get here, visas aren't being processed and so on. So the session today really is a great opportunity for students looking to study abroad in the future. And the other thing that we're very fortunate in regards to the COVID pandemic is that we have some amazing academic staff here on campus who are experts in public health and epidemiology and all sorts of things, and they have been key advisors to the government. So we have experts literally on our doorstep, which is great. So I've broken up the information session into a few different segments today, and I wanted to start with giving a bit of an overview around New Zealand as a country, Dunedin, which is the city that the University of Otago is located in the South Island here in New Zealand. So I thought I'd start with a couple of New Zealand facts. You may or may not be familiar with some of these. New Zealand is not a large country, but we are home to around 5 million people. We have a lot more sheep, so there are about 27 million sheep in New Zealand. So we are full of lots of clean green space, a lot of open outdoor areas. We do have 3 official languages, English. We have Te Reo, which is Māori, and that's our local Indigenous language. And we also have New Zealand Sign Language. A lot of people may be familiar with New Zealand when we talk about things like Lord of the Rings or Narnia, or extreme sports such as bungee jumping. So these are some of the things that New Zealand is probably most well known for. In terms of where we are located, the city of Dunedin is on the southeast coast of the South Island of New Zealand. So this map here in the middle can show you where New Zealand is and where Dunedin is located. And the picture here is sort of a bird's eye view of the city. So we have the Otago Harbour, a number of beaches and hills, but the centre city itself is relatively flat. So you can see the centre city and the campus sort of in the middle of the picture there. In terms of travelling to Dunedin, most people would typically fly into either Auckland or Christchurch. Auckland is the largest city in New Zealand, and it's located at the top of the North Island. But you'll see by the map that it's actually not that far. Dunedin from Auckland is less than 2 hours fly time, and there's direct flights. Christchurch, which is one of the other main international airports in the South Island, is only 55 minutes flight. To give you a bit more of an idea of the size and scale, If you were driving from Christchurch to Dunedin, that would take about 4.5 hours. So everything is very accessible. While we seem like possibly one of the furthest places you could go, it's probably not as far as you would expect. So flying from somewhere like LA or San Francisco into Auckland is about 10 to 11 hours, but there are direct flights. Looking at the map on the left-hand side, the South Island just gives you a bit more of an idea of some of the other hotspots or tourist destinations. So Queenstown, which is very much the adventure capital of the world, Milford Sound, Te Anau, they're about 3.5 hours away, 4 hours probably to Milford Sound or Te Anau. So again, everything is very accessible. We're very lucky. Dunedin is the gateway to the South Island. In terms of the city itself, Dunedin is not what you'd call a large city. So our population overall is around 131,000 people, but 25,000 of those are actually students. So it's very much an educational city. As you'll see there, we've got the youngest population in New Zealand, and that's because we have students from all around New Zealand and also all around the world come to Dunedin because of the true campus and educational environment. While we might not seem like a big city, there is plenty to do, and we are also New Zealand's first UNESCO creative city. So in 2014, we were awarded our City of Literature status. Dunedin is what you call a really low-key, very easygoing lifestyle. So people work hard, but at the same time they enjoy the kind of work-life balance and the lifestyle that is available here. This image just gives you another overview of the actual environment that you are potentially going to be located in. On the far right of the screen, you'll see the university. So the university is in North Dunedin. All of the campus is located centrally in one spot. So all of our buildings, all the campus is close together, and all of the housing is on or around campus. You'll see that the centre city is there in the middle. Now that's only about a 10 to 12 minute walk from the university. So we call Dunedin a 10-minute city because it's really easy to get around. Just up the back of the university, we have the Botanic Gardens that basically border the north of the campus. We have a number of gardens, bike tracks, and then obviously we have the harbour there too. So 10 to 15 minutes, you could be at a bike track, you could be at shops, cafes, restaurants, bars in the centre city, and then you'll see St Clair Beach on the far left. And that's just one of a number of beautiful beaches that we have on our doorstep. And again, that's probably a 10 to 12 minute bus ride. I know some students from the US who were on campus and decided to run to the beach. I think it was about 4 miles to watch the sunrise one morning. So it is very accessible. You can walk everywhere, you can catch the bus, and we also have Lime scooters. So it is a really easy place to get around. The next thing I want to show you is actually a video. So we'll see whether this plays or not, but this video really gives you a bit of an overview of the environment. It's a flyover of Dunedin as a city, so you'll see some of the beautiful architecture, the Botanic Gardens, and also the campus. So we'll see how this goes.
We're not hearing the music, just seeing the video.
Oh. Oh, sorry, I will go back. It's just background music, so I'll see if I can. So I'm sorry if you, could you see the video okay? Just not hear the music?
Yes, the images were beautiful.
Ah, good. So as you can see, there is some beautiful architecture there and some amazing landscapes that are literally your surrounds. So as I mentioned, Dunedin is very much the gateway to the South Island. Within 3 to 3.5 hours, you could be at sort of any environment that you could possibly imagine. So mountains, lakes, fiordlands, you could be doing 3 of New Zealand's world-famed great walks. Everything really is on your doorstep and it's incredibly accessible. So particularly for people who like the outdoors, they like to hike, but they like skiing or snowboarding or are keen to try some of those things for the first time, everything is very accessible. A couple of the images here just again go to show the sort of environment you're in. The top left image is out at St. Clair Beach. So that's here in Dunedin. The saltwater pool, I think, is literally opened this week. So that's an incredibly popular spot for people to go swimming. You'll see on the bottom right too, one of the yellow-eyed penguins. So we're really fortunate in the end of the Otago Peninsula. There's a spot called Tairua Head, and that's home to some incredible wildlife. We have baby fur seals, we have penguins, we have an amazing albatross colony. So there's a whole lot of wildlife that you can see. We are very lucky here in New Zealand. It's a very safe location. We don't have any sort of out there wildlife, nothing really dangerous, so no snakes in New Zealand. I feel I always learn something new when I travel to the US, that if I'm going for a walk, someone might say, watch out for the mountain lions, or you've got to be careful of X, Y, and Z. So we don't really have anything that dangerous here in New Zealand. Again, some of the pictures there are just from Tekapo and through in Mount Cook. And a few more images here, Milford Sound, Queenstown, and Nugget Point in the Catlins, and some of the ski fields too. All right, so now that you've got a bit of an idea of the environment, I want to talk a little bit more about the University of Otago and why you'd potentially like to study with us. The University of Otago is New Zealand's first and oldest university, so we have a really rich history and tradition associated with the institution. We're also a really highly ranked institution. We're ranked in the top 1% in the world, and we have a number of subject areas that are ranked very highly also. The university is made up of 21,000 students and more than 4,000 staff. And it's very much a destination university. We're the only truly residential campus in New Zealand and also a lot of Australasia. And what that means is 85% of the students actually come from outside of the Dunedin or Otago region. So we would have more students from Auckland or Wellington, some of the big cities in the North Island, than we would have from Dunedin. And it makes it incredibly collegial and very social. So you look at our international students that travel from all over the world, they're in the same situation as our domestic students who have also traveled to be here. And it makes it very social, engaging. People really support one another. We've also been voted the best New Zealand university for the overall student experience for the last 5 years. So while students do come here for the education and to study, we're also aware that there's a lot more to it. We want you to get involved in activities. We want you to make the most of the lifestyle and your time with us. We've got a couple of other statistics here. So a few of these I've already touched on. We have more than 190 undergraduate and postgraduate programs. So we are a very comprehensive institution. We've also got more than 150 different clubs and societies. So when I was talking about the student experience and getting involved in various activities, there is a whole range of organisations or clubs and societies that you can be part of. And I'll talk a little bit more about those later on too. In terms of our individual subject rankings, we do have a number that are ranked incredibly highly. So things like kinesiology and sport and exercise science, we're actually ranked 13th best in the world. Anatomy and physiology is ranked really highly. Dentistry, we're the only New Zealand university that offers dentistry, and that's also ranked 33rd best in the world. And we also have a huge number of other subjects that are highly ranked, including a number that are within the top 50 to 100. So things like psychology and some of our other humanities and sciences. One of the other rankings that I really like to talk about is not academic, but it's actually our campus. Our beautiful Dunedin campus has also been ranked among the 15 most beautiful campuses in the world. You'll see the iconic clock tower, which is just to the right of the image, and that's the building that the international office is located. It does remind a lot of people of Hogwarts, so any Harry Potter fans out there, you'll certainly get a bit of a gothic fix on campus. All right, so let's have a look a little bit more at what you can actually study here at Otago. As I mentioned, we are a very comprehensive institution, and we're broken up into 4 academic divisions. We have our business school, which is AACSB and EQUIS accredited. We have our science division, so that covers all of the STEM subjects, so the hard sciences through to environmental science, psychology, computer science, and a whole range of other areas. We have our health sciences division, so we have dentistry, medicine, physiotherapy, pharmacy, a number of professional programs. So anyone who's looking at pre-med, there are certainly options there. And of course, we've got our humanities and social sciences, or liberal arts, which has more than 40 major subjects available. So there's a huge variety across those 4 divisions. One of the things that's really attractive about our courses is that there's a huge amount of hands-on experience or often field work. Unlike the US, where students need to register for their classes and there may be a limitation on who can take them, generally here at Otago, if you have the background to take what we call a paper, and that's a term we use for class or course, then you will be able to take it. So if we have 50 people and the next year 100 people want to do it, we just find bigger lecture theatres. So there's no sort of pecking order in terms of having to register for classes or missing out on something you want to study. So that's a big draw card. In terms of something that's a little bit different, we offer a number of papers or classes that do have a New Zealand or Pacific focus. So these are just some of the examples, and they range from things like anthropology, history, marine science, through to sociology, and of course Māori studies. So that's a really popular course to learn more about New Zealand Māori culture and society. All right, in terms of life on campus and the accommodation student support, I wanted to touch on housing. So generally our housing is set aside for study abroad and exchange students in university flats. We abbreviate that to uni flats. So generally all of our students, as I said, live on and around campus, and they live in what's called flats. So these are houses or bungalows, and all around the main campus are streets and streets full of student housing. The uni flats are owned or managed by the university, and we match our incoming students with other like-minded international students. So when you fill in a housing application form, we ask you to be as honest as possible. We want to know about your interests, whether you're social, maybe you're a bit more introverted or quiet, maybe you're vegetarian, anything and everything. There is nothing off limits. If you have an offer of place to study at the university, then we will find accommodation for you in uni flats. So the idea is that we want you to be in a house with other people that you really get on with. The houses are fully furnished, so students have their own room, they have a double bed, they've got a study desk, but they're going to be sharing with other international students, as well as what we call a Kiwi host. So a Kiwi host is one of our domestic New Zealand students, and often they've been on an international exchange themselves, and they're very social, engaging, and it's just a really good way to be immersed in New Zealand culture and society, and also meet with other New Zealanders. So we want you to come and really be immersed in the environment. It's something we get incredibly positive feedback on. You will meet people from all over the world and also all over New Zealand. It's not uncommon for students to get to know their Kiwi hosts well, or other Kiwi hosts living in uni flats, and during a semester break, people invite their flatmates to come back to the family farm, or the city that they come from. So it's an incredibly collegial and supportive environment. For 2021, we do have limited spaces available in uni flats, but hopefully looking into the future, we can go back to our normal policy of having absolute guaranteed accommodation going forward. So that just gives you just a bit of an idea in terms of where you would be living. In terms of services and support, we have a huge range of services available. Within the international office, we have our support advisors, and they're here as a dedicated team to our international students. So any question, big or small, whether it's to do with housing, academics, maybe you just don't understand New Zealand culture or our accent, you can come and see them for some guidance and help. They're an amazing team, and they also work very closely with other services and support across campus. For example, our Student Health Centre, which is free for all students to use. So that's where you can go and see a doctor or a nurse or a counsellor. We also have other teams across campus, like our Student Learning Development team. So if students need extra support with understanding classes, they might set up a peer-assisted study session. You could do workshops to understand the referencing style that you've been asked to provide in an essay, for example. A disability information support team are there to help with any impairments. So there's a huge range of support available. Our social impact studio is something that students really enjoy being engaged with. That's a student-led initiative, and they run some incredible activities to do with mental health and wellbeing, as well as our uni crew team, and that's a great opportunity to be involved in a number of volunteer initiatives. So it could be something you decide to do as a one-off, maybe planting trees for conservation efforts, or something you want to do a little bit more regularly. There's a huge range of things available. One of the services, or a couple of them I did want to highlight, firstly is our Unipol Recreation Centre. So that is essentially the university gym, and that is free for all students to use. That's an incredible facility. You've got all of your cardio facilities, as well as weights, exercise classes, but they also do equipment hire. So if you decide that maybe you want to try paddle boarding or kayaking, you can go and hire or rent equipment from Unipol. They also have a number of courses or excursions where they work with independent providers to set up various activities for you. So for example, one of them might be a ski trip, and it's a one-stop shop where you can sign up for a really discounted rate for a ski trip, for example, and everything will be covered for you. So it will be your accommodation, your ski pass, the gear, the transport, the food. They package everything up. So it's a great way to be able to explore in your weekends or mid-semester break. Our OUSA Recreation Centre is also a great place to go. So that is where our clubs and societies are based. So the clubs could be anything from sports clubs and sports teams to cultural societies. You could learn cooking, yoga. One of the very popular ones is our tramping club, which is the New Zealand word for hiking. And they also have a number of other facilities there too. One of the other popular things that it's known for is its $3 lunches and also free breakfasts. So they provide a great service to students. As I mentioned earlier, Dunedin is a very safe place, as is New Zealand, but we're really proud of the amount of resources we put in to ensuring everyone's well-being. We've got an amazing campus watch team that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they're not only on campus, but they're in all of the student community areas too. So typically you'll see they'll be walking around in pairs and they're available if you say you leave the library at 11 o'clock at night and you're not sure about getting back to your flat. You can give them a call or push one of the buzzers on campus and they will come and meet you and walk you back to your uni flat. They are great at being able to provide information on where buildings are located. Maybe you need to know where to get a good coffee, anything and everything you can ask them. They do also have a safety patrol car. So if for some reason you feel you are in an uncomfortable situation or you just need someone to come and help, you can give them a call and they will come and pick you up in their safety patrol car. We do like to remind students during orientation that it's not an Uber Eats service. I'm sure sometimes they indulge students, but if you want to do a McDonald's run or something like that, that's generally not what they're there for. The best part is just that there is absolutely no judgment. Everything around the team is about students' safety and well-being. We do also have Senior Constable John Woodhouse on campus. So he is a registered member of the New Zealand Police Force, and again is another great resource or support service for students. For example, if anyone had lost property and they need to file a police report, John can certainly help with that, or anything around advice for safety or security issues. So there's some incredibly approachable and helpful people on campus. So that's probably the majority of the information I wanted to cover in this session. But of course, you're welcome to find out more on our website. You can contact us or myself. So we've got a generic email there, but you're always welcome to contact me personally. And we've also got our various social media channels. But of course, if you have any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer any of those for you now.
Thank you so much. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type it into the chat and I'm happy to read it, or you can also turn on your microphone at this time. So I'll just pause a minute to give people a chance to speak. Looks like someone's typing a question, so I'll just read it when it comes up.
Perfect. Has that stopped sharing now too?
No.
Oh, it's still sharing?
Yes, but I can also share and then it'll automatically disappear.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. So Julie, I can see your question there. So it's a real mix on campus, I would say, in terms of activities and social things. So there are certainly students that that drink. So in New Zealand, the legal age to drink is 18. But there's also a number of students who don't drink. So you absolutely, can pick and choose the kind of environment you want to be in and the type of lifestyle that you lead. It's certainly not dominated by one thing or the other. We do get a lot of students who, they like that sort of party aspect, but there are also students who would rather get involved in, other activities. So it certainly caters for, a huge variety of backgrounds. One of the things that's really, really good about the uni flats is they're set up in almost in communities. So when we ask people to put information in the housing application form, that's something we encourage people to say. So if, for example, you do drink and you are, a bit of a party animal, we ask people to tell us that, because not only are we going to put people with like-minded people, there are particular streets or areas that we might have more social people. And then if some people say, I am not a drinker, or I'd much rather be involved in these activities, we look at other streets and areas. So we not only is it your flat and your flatmates that are housed based on your lifestyle and your interests, but it's also areas within the community and the housing. So we certainly cater for a huge variety, but that's a really good question.
Yes, thanks for that question. I have a question or two myself, but I'll wait and see if anybody else has something. Okay, well, I will jump in with a question. First of all, I think that the setting is one of your biggest selling point. It's so beautiful. The campus is beautiful. The city is beautiful. The country is beautiful. But it is a very different setting for, I think, a lot of our students. They never maybe lived on an island. And so I was wondering, first of all, how big is it? And do students typically fill their time just with all of the adventure activities on your island, or do they also maybe fly over to Australia or some of the Pacific Islands?
Yeah, great question. There's plenty to do in Dunedin, but I think because of, I guess, the size of New Zealand and just the amount there is to see and do, people do travel around and they do explore a lot. So you've got to strike a balance between, you're having an international experience. You've got to weigh up the fact that you're also still studying, and you're wanting to do well because those credits are going towards your degree. But I think what makes it really attractive is that it is very easy to get out and about and explore different areas. So as I said, I think a lot of students would travel, most weekends, not all, and you certainly don't have to, but a lot of students that I would speak to would say they plan excursions. So they might go through to Queenstown, depending on the time of the year they're here. If students are interested in skiing, for example, they might get a ski pass and head away and ski or snowboard every weekend. But it is very easy, not only to get around the South Island, but also to explore the rest of New Zealand. So I have just personally bought some flights myself to head up to Wellington, and that was probably about 89 New Zealand dollars. So that's probably around 55, 60 US dollars for a flight to the North Island. We do have buses, there are shuttles, things like that. One of the things too that's really nice about the uni flat setup is they have a great Facebook group, and I'm also in that, so I can see the activity. But often people will post in it and say, we've got a car or two cars and we're planning on going down to the Catlins to do this hike, or we thought we'd try this, we've got 3 seats available, does anyone want to come and join? So there is a lot of ways that you don't need a car, but there's a lot of really good ways that you can meet other people and get involved in kind of exploring. Because we are very close to Australia, students will absolutely make the most of seeing more of this side of the world. So in terms of size, I think, looking at a map, which is very rough, sort of the size of Australia is sort of similar to the size of the US in terms of land mass, and New Zealand fits into that about 28 times. So in terms of the size of the country. but it's really close. So flying from Dunedin, we have direct flights when borders aren't closed, over to, say, Brisbane in Australia, and that's about 3.5 hours flight time. So often in things like the mid-semester break, or even before or after students have their semester here, they might incorporate some travel to Australia, or maybe even one of the Pacific Islands, so Fiji, Samoa, Rarotonga. And one of the things that's great with Student Safe, which is the insurance policy, is that it does cover travel insurance for a number of other destinations outside of New Zealand as well.
Oh,
so
great.
it is, yeah, very accessible.
Well, if anybody else has some questions, please feel free again to type it in or to jump in. Please interrupt me.
One of the other things I didn't mention during the presentation was just around, I guess, the faculty too. So our staff here are very international. I think 75% of our faculty are from outside of New Zealand, or their highest qualification is. So it's a very diverse mix, which is really great on campus. Our Vice Chancellor, which is the president, is actually from the US. She and her husband are both psychologists, and they had come over early on in their academic career and thought, we'll have 5 years in New Zealand, and 20 odd years later they're still here. So we do have some amazing stories of people who have travelled from all over the world, and a lot of them seek out experts. So I was speaking to some students yesterday who were recently here at Otago for study abroad. And it's funny, I think a lot of students think it's a beautiful destination to go, and probably don't realise the calibre of education in New Zealand. So all of the New Zealand universities are ranked in the top 3% in the world. So it's a really great place for education. But a lot of students, after their study abroad experience, decide that they may want to come back for graduate study because they find an academic that's researching in an amazing area that's globally recognised. So there are lots of opportunities here, and obviously, as I said, you're here for your education, but there's plenty of opportunity to get out and about and explore too.
Would you say that students have good access as an undergraduate student to those faculty?
Oh, that is huge, absolutely. I think one of the models that we use in terms of teaching is makes it very accessible. So all of our faculty, whether they are the head of departments or programs, the full professors, they all teach. So you could be taught by one of the top researchers in a first year or 100 level paper. So part of the model here is that all of our faculty need to be doing a certain amount of teaching, research and service. So academics can't buy out their teaching time or delegate it. So you are taught by absolute experts in their field, from the very entry level classes through to the more advanced classes. I think the approachability of staff too is also incredible. A lot of students often say they're not used to being able to call the academics by their first name. You can send an email, you can visit them in their office. They're incredibly approachable and they want students to do well. We are also recognised in terms of the number of teaching awards that we've received here. So we have our Prime Minister's Supreme Tertiary Excellence Award for teaching, and 7 out of the last 8 years an Otago faculty member or academic has received that. So it just goes to show they're incredibly approachable. They love having US students in their classes. I hear that from faculty all the time. They'll often say, how do we get more US students in the class? And I think it's just the culture and the ability to engage in discussion is something that's really appreciated by the faculty and also other students as well.
I have a follow-up to that. But again, anybody else who has a question, I was going to ask, is the style of the classes similar to what we have in the United States, or is it different? I've heard of some other countries have a very different style.
Yeah. It will vary depending on the class that you take. So typically, one of the biggest differences is that we have less homework or less assignments. So if you were taking, like a 100 or 200 level paper or class, you could be in a lecture theatre with maybe 200 to 300 other people. So normally during the week, students during their semester would take 3 or 4 papers or courses or classes, and you would have maybe 2 to 3 lectures a week, and you may have a tutorial. So during the lectures, if you're in a big lecture theatre with 300 other people, there's not going to be the same amount of discussion as if you're in a smaller class where there's only 15 to 20 people. But the things like tutorials, that's where students get the opportunity to be in much smaller groups. So it could be 10 to 20 people, and they go through the material you learn in the lecture and actually get to discuss it and apply it a little bit more. In terms of assessment, that is definitely one of the biggest differences. You could be taking a particular paper or course, as you would call it, and you might have a 10% assessment or assignment. You might have a 15% group project, another 15% midterm exam. So that's 40% internally kind of graded, and then you could have a final exam that's worth 60% of your final grade. So sometimes that can be a bit of a shock if students are used to essentially starting with an A or an A+ and doing homework or assignments or assessment every week. That is a slightly different structure here, but the thing to note is that everyone is in the same boat. So if you're going to classes, if you're doing the work and you're putting in the hours in terms of your reading and preparing for your assignments, then you will do well. It's just, I think, having the independence and the motivation to ensure that you're putting in the hours that you need to. So I think sometimes that is a bit of a difference in terms of the style. But again, all of the academics will vary. They are, as I said, they're incredibly approachable. You can ask them any sorts of questions, get any kind of feedback. But their individual teaching style will be slightly different depending on on the personality and who you have.
Well, just looking at the clock here, we have about 15 minutes left if anybody would like to ask a question.
The students with us today, just out of curiosity, are you freshman or sophomore or junior? When are you thinking of potentially studying abroad?
I'm a freshman, and
great.
my older brother did the same program.
Cool.
Twin Cities, and so I decided to look into it, possibly for my junior year.
Perfect. So he came to Otago, and what was the feedback or experience? Does it sound similar to what I've talked about today?
Yeah, he had a lot of fun. He ended up getting sent back because it was during COVID.
Oh no! Oh, so it was the semester, well, spring, I guess.
Yeah, and he said that both universities were really easy to work with and allowing him to get back home safely.
Oh, that's really good to hear. I think it's really smart. I mean, there are so many places that you can, travel to and go abroad. And it's hard. I mean, I don't know how you make a decision because there's so many places I still want to go to. But I think it is really smart, starting to plan early and have an idea of what you're wanting to do. And I guess too, being able to find classes that you need, or whether or not you're just taking general electives, or you have major requirements. But I think that does make it a little bit easy with Otago, as generally we offer such a broad range that you can cover the academic requirements that you need.
I was going to ask, did I hear somebody? Maybe just my echo. I think when you touch down in New Zealand, what would you say is like, can you kind of give a student a picture of what their first couple weeks is like? Because it's you're going, for us, around the other side of the world, a totally different physical environment and different accent. What are they going to be doing those first couple weeks?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So typically, when you land in, let's say, Auckland, you arrive, you'll see people are incredibly friendly. One of the things that always makes me feel, I know that I'm home, is literally when you are, back at the airport and you're going through, you pick up your bag and all the security, everyone's just incredibly chatty, and they want to know, oh, where have you come from? Or, oh, great, we've just come home, where have you come from? People are genuinely very friendly and very just interested to sort of chat to you. Walking down the street, people make eye contact, so complete strangers will smile and say g'day or hey or how are you. So it's, I don't know, even big cities, people are generally really engaging and very friendly and very warm and welcoming. So when you fly into Dunedin, Dunedin Airport is very different to Auckland. So the airport is actually out in Momona or Outram, which is about 35-45 minutes from Dunedin City, and it's really rural. So you fly in and you can probably smell some of the cows in the paddock. So it's kind of a bit of a, where have I come to? But then you eventually drive through the Tari Plains into the city. So it is, it's a relatively small airport. But in that first few weeks, generally students are settling in. You have your orientation, which is a great way just to get an overview of everything that's happening. People would have a campus tour. You move into your flat. You get an idea of where all of the local amenities are. So where's your supermarket? Go and have a look at the shops in town. So often you might decide you want to personalize your bedroom a little bit more. You might want to go and buy some nice cushions for your bed, or some artwork for your wall or something like that. So working out those kind of places, trying the food. So trying food that's completely different. So things like pies are that's just a really Kiwi food. So I know in the US, pie is normally something that's sweet, like pumpkin pie, apple pie. In New Zealand, that's something you would get from what we call a dairy. So a dairy is almost like a little convenience store, or like a 7-Eleven or something like that. And you'd go and buy a meat pie. So it's like a small individual, normally like mince or steak and cheese, or there could be, miniature like bacon and egg pie, those kind of things. Ice cream. So we've got a New Zealand ice cream called Hokey Pokey, and it's like a vanilla ice cream with little, it's almost like little caramelized, kind of like almost like praline, like crunchy, like sugar, like caramelized balls that are really crunchy. I guess trying some of those sort of unique foods. Learning some of the language. So I think that's one of the things that's really interesting to talk to locals about, is just understanding some of the differences. So I know that we both speak English. There's the accent, but some of the slang or the sayings that we use, people just don't understand what we're saying. But even words that have completely different meanings too. So just, I think, navigating the different accents and the different meanings of words. But I think generally just kind of getting a sense of routine as well, getting your bearings, going for a walk, seeing how far the city is, as I said, seeing where the supermarket is, having a look around campus, maybe going to a beach, jumping on the bus, things like that, just to get a sense of where everything is at and how you navigate getting from A to B. But I definitely recommend having a look at some of those different foods and typical kind of Kiwi things that you can try.
Wonderful. We just have about 5 more minutes. If anybody has some final questions, please jump in.
I definitely recommend to talk to any students who have been abroad. I'm a graduate of the University of Otago myself, and I loved it as a student, but I obviously wasn't travelling from the other side of the world to study here. But I do think it's really valuable to hear from other people. So Julie, that's great that you know someone. I'm sorry that your brother didn't get the full semester experience, but at least he has an idea of the environment and everything like that. But have a look at some of the websites. I don't know if you have kind of ambassadors or returned students on campus, but places like Go Overseas have a whole heap of like testimonials and reviews. I definitely recommend having a look online at various videos and reviews, just to get that real honest kind of feedback, and someone else's perspective, so that they can give you the absolute their honest perspective on their experience here. Sorry, they've just started drilling outside somewhere.
Well, just to piggyback on your comment, definitely students can reach out to our office, and if we are able, we certainly are happy to put students in contact with somebody who has studied there. So that's something we can do. You can email us at the email you see on the slide, studyabroad@uw-stout.edu. I also wanted to add that we are also here by virtual appointment, so you can use the tiny URL link there to set up an appointment with myself. I'm now the study abroad advisor who supports students to study at Otago. And you'd also research your option at our website, which is uw-stout.studioabroad.com. So I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you so very much for joining us. It was such a wonderful overview of your school, and we're so happy to be partnering with you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for joining the information session. It's always nice to be able to speak to people, and again, if you have any questions or there's anything that I can do to help, then please don't hesitate to get in touch.
Sounds great, and thank you to our attendees as well. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you.